Now, there's another new term that we've been hearing bandied around, and it's one you're addressing in Ubiquity, the specific service, responsible media. How do you define it? What is its benefits? Is it a nice to have, or do you think it's essential for brands?
Well, there has, until recently, not been much attention paid to the nature of the recipients of advertising dollars, pounds, euros. And as the world has got more, placed more scrutiny, shall we say, on environmental and social and governance issues, brand owners have started to question whether all the parties that receive their investments act with integrity or are honest brokers, shall we say, honest players in the marketplace. And what our analysis has shown is that quite a lot of money investment is going to players that are questionable. And there is now quite a realization amongst brand owners that they need to, you consider the amount of money that is spent. Are they funding responsible actors in the marketplace? Everybody is very familiar with the story of fraud in the digital advertising supply chain. They're a bit less familiar with how much money goes to publishers that are promoting hate speech or deliberately pumping out disinformation or putting conspiracy theories out there or anti-vax theories out there. So we now have a product, a solution that helps advertisers identify this. And one simple example is we have identified on behalf of a global pharmaceutical company that some of their advertising investment was funding publishers that are promoting anti-vax material. So that's one sort of example. Another example that I think the industry has been aware of, but probably didn't understand the quantum of, has been those clickbait sites that really just made for advertising. Now, there's nothing illegal that these players are doing, but they found a way to develop content of negligible or zero value, which still attracts consumers in, and then load the advertising page with vast amounts of ads. Now, the studies that we've conducted, or I shouldn't say studies, we've actually run quite a lot of our clients' money through our responsible media investment product, has identified around about 15% of all digital advertising spend goes to these sites. Now, the other thing that we've also identified, we're in partnership now with Scope 3, which maps, if you like, or measures rather, the CO2 emissions through the digital advertising supply chain. And what we've identified is that those made for advertising websites have the heaviest or the largest carbon emissions. So not only do they have this 15% of advertising investment going on websites that we would argue have zero value in terms of communicating to consumers, but also burning the most amount of CO2. Now, we ran, it was 116 billion impressions through our responsible media product, specifically to look at the Scope 3 carbon emissions. And on that $116 billion impressions, it was the same amount of carbon CO2 being emitted as flying 2.8 million people between London and Paris. So there is now a growing, I should say, realization amongst brand owners that they can place, or that they now have visibility on this, the ability to measure this and place some scrutiny on it. So your question was, is it a nice to have or is it essential? I would say it is still on the journey from being nice to have, because really we've only just, as an industry, been able to measure and quantify these kind of things. And I'm pleased to say Ubiquity is the first to put these measurement solutions in place. So as our clients and brand owners become more aware of their ability to measure these kinds of items, then I think they will be on a journey from nice to have to essential. And one of the things we're bringing to market is, obviously everybody's familiar with optimizing their advertising investment for cost per thousand. What we can now do is provide the opportunity to optimize based on a CO2 per thousand metrics. And what will be interesting is whether advertisers pick up that opportunity and seek to reduce their carbon emissions, which that we now know they can by optimizing in a, if you like, a green optimization. But what is the trade-off? Will that diminish reach? And will they be prepared to take that trade-off? And, it's similar with publishers. Will they be prepared to reduce the yield on their inventory by optimizing for again, reduce carbon emissions largely through their use of sell-side platforms? So there's a very interesting dynamic in place. It's still, I would say, in its infancy as a space, but we now have brought to market and means for advertisers to address this. So I think over the coming months or perhaps 24 months, it becomes a necessary deliverable for advertisers.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.